Since everybody is understandably on edge about the Supreme Court appointment we're facing right now, the prospect that Brett Kavanaugh is possibly an attempted rapist has completely taken over our collective minds. With so many opinions being offered about what the process should look like for additional testimony from Professor Ford and Judge Kavanaugh, I feel like we should have opened September 2018 with that meme with the guy from the Game of Thrones holding a sword and bracing for the cold. You know, this isn't the first time our nation has been rocked by a sex scandal during a Supreme Court nomination. It also happened in 1991 when Anita Hill was forced into the spotlight of public judgment and scrutiny to recount to the Senate Judiciary Committee her horrific and abusive experiences working for now Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. She detailed to the committee the sexual harassment she endured from him a decade before his nomination to the High Court. 27 years later, about a week ago, she penned an op-ed in the New York Times about how the U.S. Senate could do its job better during these current hearings. It's an interesting read, and one of the more provocative things in it is her suggestion that the burden of persuasion is on the nominee, Brett Kavanaugh. In other words, in treating the hearings like a job interview, the United States Senate Judiciary Committee should expect Judge Kavanaugh to persuade them of his competence. Like any other job interview, he should persuade them that he deserves the job. And when credible objections to his competence arise, he should be the one expected to persuade the committee and the rest of the Senate to overlook them. I'm not entirely sure if I completely agree, but it's certainly a concept that can work well when issues related to a character defect arise. And at the very least, Anita Hill's proposal makes sense in the current framework of how Senate committee rules work. Now, let's take a look at what Ben Shapiro, the esteemed legal eagle of all the conservative ding-dongs out there. And if you're not familiar, Shapiro is a Harvard law grad who could be a voice double for the guy in the Micro Machines commercial.
The Micro Machine Man here, presenting the genuine, original, colossally collectible, most midget miniature replicas of the real things, Micro Machines.
Here he is on Fox News, giving an interesting legal opinion about what would happen if Democrats really cared about the truth.
This is all insanity, and again, it's demonstrative of the fact that if we really wanted to get to the truth of the situation, if Democrats really gave one crap about this, what Democrats would be doing is putting this woman in front of a hearing, calling whatever witnesses they could, and then they would be attempting to bolster her case. They wouldn't be hiding her and then suggesting that any questions to be asked are somehow undermining the justice system.
So if Democrats really gave one crap about this, what Democrats would be doing is putting this woman in front of the hearing, calling whatever witnesses they could. Well, ain't that cute, counselor? The Democrats should just simply call whatever witnesses they want. Is that how it works? Now, Ben, you're either willfully deceitful or simply ignorant of the most basic of Senate committee rules. So hold on to your California bar card, Ben Shapiro, you intellectual dark web whiner. As someone who actually worked for the United States Senate for a few years, let me tell you a thing or two about how an unwilling witness gets brought before the Senate committee. Let's assume that Democrats want to hear from Mark Judge, Kavanaugh's high school buddy, who is also the third person in the room Professor Ford says was there. He has been adamant that he didn't want to talk or testify, and claims that he doesn't recall anything about the party anyway. Okay, but let's assume the Democrats want to hear from him anyway. Well, they're kind of screwed. The only way to make an unwilling witness show up is with a subpoena, and the only way a subpoena gets issued is by the committee chairman, notorious slow talker, Chuck Grassley, with either agreement of the minority leader, Dianne Feinstein, or a majority vote of the whole committee. Grassley has already stated definitively that there will be no subpoena for Mark Judge, or, in fact, any other witnesses. The Democrats are powerless to override that rule. And you should know that, Ben, from even the most basic reading of the committee rules. So yeah, the Republicans are the elected majority party in the Senate, and that is how chairmanship of the committee is determined. And by the way, this is reason number 45 of why elections matter. But why would Ben Shapiro lie about how subpoenas work? Because it's very important for the Republicans to pull the wool over the American people's eyes about how confirmation hearings work. And it's crucial for them to pretend that Democrats are being unreasonable. They are always talking about this imaginary 11th hour and arbitrary hearing days. Don't forget, these hearings aren't limited in time by the Constitution. Sure, most of them take about 4 or 5 days, but Clarence Thomas's took a whopping 11 days, and it was all fine, legally speaking. So, Benny boy, stop lying. We have fantastic audio software now. We can slow down your little Micro Machine monologues and transcribe them at normal human English speeds so they can be understood by regular folks. It's easy to see that despite your Harvard legal education, you are quite ignorant / deceptive when it comes to the most basic legal procedure. But that's A-okay, because we're on to you, Shapiro.